Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, any reduction is to be welcomed, and I suppose that's probably the effect of the 96-bed block. The other thing, obviously, we need to remember is that the last week of January 2025 was Storm Owen, so people weren't out about and about as much, and people weren't attending as much. So that would have had a factor in for the last couple of days of the month. But I think overall, I'd say probably 10% of that drop is related to the 96-bed block, and attendances keep going up in UHL, so it's not going to be that long before that 96-bed block benefit is eliminated.
Yeah, I think you could kind of see that over the course of the month as well, when there was a couple of spikes, when there was 120, 123 on a couple of occasions over the course of the month, that although it is having a sustained kind of effect in decreasing numbers, it's not having the full effect in terms of eradicating the problem totally.
Well, no, and I mean, obviously, January would be a high attendance month in terms of flu and stuff anyway. So we'll be able to tell a lot more. We'll be able to see the effect of the 96-bed block a lot more once Paddy's Day is over, let's say, because that's when the weather starts improving and people aren't getting as sick, etc. As I say, probably a 10% drop, which is kind of on par with what we expected for 96 beds. But with the population growth and the attendance growth and the aging of our population, that 96-bed block, the benefit of it is going to be wiped out in probably the next 2 years.
Yeah, and I suppose the key stark detail is that Limerick is still 47% more than the next busiest hospital, which was Galway, and I suppose that's even more alarming when you've got the two big hospitals either side of Clare are the two busiest in the country.
Yeah, I mean, if you're living in Clare and you're sick, it's Hobson's choice really as to whether you go to UHL or Galway University Hospital, because either way you're probably going to end up on a trolley.
And then you're looking at Ennis actually went up from 260 to 277, and I suppose we'll come to the meeting, the Sinn Féin meeting you were in attendance at. A key factor of that is that you made the point that Ennis can't really take the burden of extra patients from UHL.
Yeah, because I mean, if you move more patients out of UHL and send them into Ennis, they're just going to end up on trolleys in Ennis, and you're basically just moving the trolleys. It's like moving the chairs on the Titanic at that point. I don't see any point in having people trolleys moved from Limerick to Ennis. It doesn't benefit anyone. The only thing that's going to solve this is a new hospital.
And I suppose that was the key point you made as well at this meeting, was the progression of option B for the as far north of Coona as possible for the time being, and in the long term moving to option C in Clare.
Yeah, option C, if and when option C comes to be built, it absolutely has got to be in Clare. I mean, if you look at even the trolley counts between Ennis and Nenagh, the attendances at OPD between Ennis and Nenagh, the local injuries unit attendances between Ennis and Nenagh, Ennis is by far the busier hospital, and Tipperary, as I keep saying, already has a hospital. Clare is the only county in Munster without one. If option B is going to be built in 10 or 15 years' time, it absolutely has to be in Clare. And as far as Friends of Ennis Hospital would be concerned, it has to be within the Ennis Municipal District, because Ennis is the centre of the county and it is the most easily accessible point from north, south, east and west of Clare.
And I suppose crucially, the expansion of Ennis isn't an option either, just given the amount of extra facilities that have to be incorporated into Ennis Hospital to bring it on par with what option C would deliver in terms of a new hospital in the region.
Yeah, so the hospital that we have in Ennis was built in 1940, so it's actually older than my own parents. It's time we need a new hospital. It needs to be built on a greenfield site. I don't see the capability to change what is actually needed. I mean, you'd need a new x-ray department and new labs and new theatres and new bed blocks and single occupancy beds is what HICWA is looking for. There just simply is not the space on the current Ennis Hospital campus for that. So we're looking at a greenfield site, somewhere within the NSMD area. And I said it last night and I said it this morning in our press release, that land needs to be bought now, because we don't know what kind of pressures is going to come on land in the county in the next 10 to 15 years. So at least if they buy it now, they'll have it there for whenever they are ready to build.
And I suppose looking at as a result of this meeting held by Sinn Féin yesterday, it's a topic that hasn't led to much optimism, especially in the last couple of years. But is there any sort of renewed optimism or increased optimism that if option C is progressed, that the government will decide to put it in Clare?
Yeah, well, so the first step on this whole journey is going to be the setup of the Hospital Development Board. That needs to be done Q1 of 2026, because nothing is going to happen with option B or C until that's done. And I would be calling on the Minister for Health to get that up and running ASAP, ideally during the month of February, so that we can get this off the ground. Option B has to come before C, so they need to have that site identified and bought as well. And then we need to get things moving. I mean, I don't see any benefit to anyone in sitting back and waiting.
But you emphasised that urgency there, I suppose, and you also mentioned earlier that I suppose your impact of your 96 bed block won't be seen until after Patrick's Day. Is that urgency going to be all the more increased if it's not having the 10% decrease it's sustained throughout February and March as well?
Yeah, but that just proves that basically, if we're going to see a bigger impact on the 96 bed block after St. Patrick's Day, then now is the time to be pressing for that hospital development board to be set up. Now is the time to be pressing the HSE to buy those parcels of land, because I would be afraid that as hospital trolley numbers drop in March, April, May, June, July, that the urgency will disappear altogether. So now is the time that we start putting that pressure on. Now is the time that the HSE need to get up and say, right, this is our land. I know that the HSE estates and the Department of Health are looking at land parcels. I don't know where. I haven't asked. I don't want to know, because I know that there are commercial sensitivities involved in that. So that needs to be done. It needs to be done in February. The Hospital Development Board needs to be set up in February. The land needs to be bought in February, March, because the pressure is going to decrease once the trolley numbers decrease. So it is the onus is on our politicians and on the public and all of our public representatives to pressurise the Department of Health and the Minister and the HSE to get this moving now, because if we get to the summer, it'll be forgotten about.